Hello and hi YouTube family, this is Celestial and you are tuning into Celestial Evolution. Welcome! Thank you very much for coming back. If you have come back, if you are not and you're just joining, let me tell you about myself. This is a channel that talks about my journey, and what I'm coming to find is that I truly needed to develop a foundation. And this foundation that I talk about is going to focus on 4 components. The first one being physicality, fitness, making sure that you're keeping your vessel that you are given right and tight and healthy and functioning. Spirituality. Now, I just don't dwell in religion, though that is a big component in regards to when we think about spirituality. But when I think about spirituality, I think of us as a small part of a bigger whole. Education. Whether you get it through self-education at home or you go to a university or a state school, it doesn't matter. Keep learning. Keep learning. Once you stop learning, you die. Financial well-being. Now, money is the root of all evil. I don't believe money is the root of all evil. I believe how you spend your money, the person that has the money, and if he's evil or she's evil, then money can be a root of evil. But if you are using it towards good and the betterment of the whole, I think money is a great platform and a great vessel to guiding us into our dreams and hopefully bettering our community, since money is the blood of our society. We need it. It is our bartering chip, and without it, the world just wouldn't function the same way, right? But those are the 4 components that I really want to focus on this channel, because I don't believe that there are enough individuals in this world that are thriving. Once you have all of those components, conscious, circulating, being balanced every single day, you have to have your priorities in order. Once you get your priorities right, then you can start having some fun and really finding why we as individual people were put on this earth. Today's episode, I want to talk about the spirituality category and some things that I'm learning about my journey in life. Now, last week, I had the great privilege of being able to attend a funeral with my father. Now, you saw that the tagline of this video, I think that's what they call it, or the hook of this video, daddy issues. Do you have them? Yes, I think a lot of women and men do. I don't know why it's always just tacked on to women, like we're the only ones who suffer from daddy issues. Let's call them father issues. Those who didn't grow up with a masculine presence in the home, we all have them. We had to try to compensate for them. And we think of it as some derogatory or scarlet letter of a word, right? Oh, you have daddy issues, you're going to have some issues. You're going to be looking for older men, you're going to be looking for love all in the wrong places. And that is a part of some of our journeys. But ultimately, I believe that daddy issues are just an experience. It's just an experience in a permutation of life. We all have different adversities, and that is exactly what having no father in the home should be looked as, an adversity. An adversity, by definition, let's look this up so that I can give you the juice, guys. The juice. Adversity. Alright, and we're looking up at the Merriam Dictionary's version of adversity. And adversity, and it is a noun which is described as a person, place, or thing. So I'm supposing this is a thing, right? A state or instance, a state of mind, an instance, an experience of serious or continued difficulty or misfortune. So it could be just one moment of misfortune or a continued path of misfortunes. And daddy issues, I believe that is like a continued path because it's something that follows you for all your life, right? But it was a moment in time. But let's explore this. So for myself, growing up as a young child, and I'm going back into my vulnerable days because all adults are just hurt children, right? I've heard that quote. That wasn't by me, so don't coin that. But as a young girl growing up without a father, I had a lot of young women who did have their daddies, and I would be so jealous. I'd be like, well, you know, she's like, I can just go home to my daddy and I can cry on his shoulder and he tells me he loves me and all these different things. And I'm like, well, I don't have that. I don't have a dad to go home to and talk to him about my woes, about young men and how I should be treated, and, you know, like to teach me what a dad can only teach a young woman or a young man about the world. And it's a different type of love too. I was blessed though. I don't consider myself unfortunate because I had a grandpa and I had uncles who really treated me like their little sister or like a surrogate father in some senses, surrogate fathers. But it wasn't the same as having somebody who is supposed to be your keeper, and it's different. And I did feel broken in a lot of senses, and the father that I did have growing up was unavailable. And I don't say that to throw shade at him or make him feel sad about it. It was just what happened. And I know that it had a lot to do with his relationship with my mother, and it had a lot to do with maybe past hurt on how he grew up, because he too didn't have his biological father who raised him. And when I think about all those things as an adult now, in which as I get into a little bit later, is all of this to say I say all of that to say this. As I said earlier, adversity is a state or instance of serious or continued difficulty or misfortune. And misfortune is subjective. All of these words have different meanings for different people. What is misfortunate for me may not be misfortunate to you, and vice versa. But it is a misfortune because you lose a balancing act in your development. As we are created by female energy and male energy, we lost the male energy in our upbringing. Therefore, we do have kind of like a handicap in our development, and we're walking around with a limp, you know, too heavy in the feminine, you know. My mom tried to compensate. She was both male and female, and I can say that she is both male and female in her spirit, the way she carries herself, but it wasn't enough. And you grow up, you can feel sorry for yourself, and I wasn't looking for love. I honestly felt like I didn't, not deserve love, but I looked at love in a very different way, and I looked at it very calculated. But that is a session for me and my therapist. I want to go on to say that I went to a funeral with my father, and I have laid out our foundation of our relationship. And it took a lot of introspection to really forgive my parents for the mistakes, or excuse me, I don't like to use the word mistakes. Let's focus on that first. I don't like to use the word mistakes. I like to use experiences. For their responses to the experiences that happen in their life, that what is the word I'm looking for? That trickle down to the experiences of their offspring. My mother was a first generation. She was brought here by her father and mother, who didn't speak any English, and they were accompanied by 4 other siblings that she had, my 2 uncles and my 2 aunts and her. And she was the oldest of all of these youngins, and she had to learn very quickly how to speak English. And when she came here, it was just an overabundance of things that they never had there, right? Food, shelter, opportunity to make money. It was overwhelming. And I think she was only 10 years old when she came here. And then as she grew up, having to be kind of the breadwinner for the house, the translator, she fell into love with men. And then she found my father and had us at a ripe age of 18, 19 years old. What was she thinking at that time? I don't know. I don't even remember. I don't want to divulge age yet. We don't know each other that well yet. But I am a ripe age, and I still feel like I'm a child deep in my spirit, in my soul, in the way that I carry myself. I feel like it. I'm in a woman's body, but I'm like, don't look at me, please. But kind of look at me, but don't. And at the same time, okay, it's really weird. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine the amount of pressure that she must have felt. And then to have children at such a young age, not even really knowing yourself yet and what your capabilities are, your potential. And my father, from what I have assessed, he came from a background of lostness. He says that he doesn't even have baby pictures of himself, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it was because, he's older and there's not that many pictures that can come. I mean, I have like a million and trillion pictures of my nieces and cousins and all these different things, and it's a different generation, but I digress. I haven't learned a lot about my dad yet, but I know that he just experienced loss with his spouse. I don't want to get into his personal business, but then his aunt, the nephew that passed away from drunk driver. He was in a car with a drunk driver, so no drinking and driving. Young kids never get in a car with a person that has been drinking, especially if they're young and dumb. I don't want to categorize young people, but you guys really don't use intelligence. You want to be cool for your friends and you want to show off, and to each his own. But you have a life ahead of you, so be smart about it. When your mom says don't drink and drive, or your dad says that, please don't. It's for a reason. And you always think that you're so high and mighty and nothing can ever happen to you, but look. Case in point. Soapbox. But I look at my dad and someone that I always wanted to know. And I seize the opportunity because, I've never met his side of the family before. Not as a conscious human being that can assess emotions and understand the ramifications of what has happened after years of neglect. But I feel that I had to do that because I put myself in my dad's shoes. I put myself in my mom's shoes. When you do that, you take yourself out of self-pity mode and put yourself in human mode. Why do I mention this? Because we feel inflicted by pain. This is true. Pain sometimes is caused by external circumstances. This is true. When we have that happen to us, that is not something we chose, it is something that happened to us. The only thing that we can truly control about that experience is our reaction to the experience. It's easy to choose the reaction of self-pitying. I think a lot of us do that. I was one of them for a very long time. When you choose that route, you also choose the route that you are not responsible for your emotions. Self-pitying puts you in a perspective of this. Well, it happened to me, and I'm hurt by it, and they did it to me, and they're the only person who can say to me sorry to me, and they have to do right by me in order for me to feel good about myself. Does that sound familiar? It does, right? I know a lot of people who do it. I did it too. I did do that. But then when you say, okay, let me get back to this happened to me. This happened to me. This could have happened to so many other people, but it happened to me. Okay, how do I fix this? How do I solve this? Do I let it go? Do I find a lesson in this? How do we move on from this? And see. So, how do we move on from the hurt and the pain? Because it's always going to be there. We look at the experience, and if you can, if it's like the people that did it to you, in this case, were your parents, your parent, it's mostly your parents, because if something, unless your daddy was really like a deadbeat or something like that, sometimes mama's got to take responsibility too, because sometimes they push daddy's side. I don't know what is going on with this camera. I gotta learn its ins and outs. I gotta have a relation with it, you know, a relationship with it, because there's so many different moods that it has, and I'm just like, baby, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Can you tell me what's wrong? And it's gonna be like, you know what? You just never took the time to get to know me. I had a manual. I told you what I needed. You didn't want to even bother to read it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You're right. We're gonna work on communication. I'm gonna understand you, okay? That's what's happening today. I know. We just gotta take the time, guys. But that ties into basically what I was saying before I got cut off. And I cut off at a weird point because I wanted you to hear my last point of what I was saying, because it is pretty poignant, especially in our day-to-day society where we put a lot of emphasis on the plight of the single mother, yet sometimes single mothers are single for a reason. And that goes into, I don't want to give credit to a lot of these, you know, men who are on this like red pill type of mentality. Same thing with pink pill, because honestly I think it's a lot of hurt people. I know I'm digressing, but I think it's a lot of hurt people who are getting on this platform and telling people how not to get used and everything. But love is about being vulnerable, y'all. Vulnerability, y'all. Just keep it in your heart. Know that the only way to truly love and to be loved is to be vulnerable. Imagine your first heartbreak. What happened? You shared all your secrets with them, right? Your heart's wants and its needs, and then they used it against you, and you're just like, never again. Never share my heart with anybody again. Again. But anyways, so what I was saying before is that what do we do to fix the hurt of things that happen to us or around us? And whether it was intentional, whether it was an intentional blow to you, is it an affliction? I'll look it up. We have to assess for ourselves first, after, you know, feeling the pain and understanding it and analyzing it. That's the only way we can truly really make sense of anything that happens to us, right? And sometimes we can't make sense of what happened. We can understand how we can figure out how to get us through it, right? So in the case of having no dad, men and women. Men, I can only understand your pain. We don't really talk about your emotions, do we? Because you're just supposed to get over it. You're supposed to wear the big boy pants. You ain't supposed to cry. You ain't supposed to talk about, you know, my dad hurt me. But do you remember that scene with Will Smith? Oh my gosh, I cry every time just thinking about it, even though I didn't really think Will Smith was that great of an actor as Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He did this scene with Uncle Phil, and his dad came back into his life, right? And then all of a sudden he had something to do and he left again. But he didn't tell Will. He had Uncle Phil tell him, because Uncle Phil was like a man, you know, taking care of his responsibilities. And Will was like, you know, he was trying to play the tough guy and everything like that. And then he's like, yeah, you know, I had all these plans and everything, but how come he didn't want me? You know, and he breaks down crying. Oh my gosh, I think about it and I was like, it's so true. Why didn't Dad want me? You know, what was it about me that made him not want me? And sometimes, baby, I call you guys baby because that's how I would want someone to talk to me, baby. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes people don't grow, or they became stagnated at a certain age and they didn't know how to be what you needed them to be for you. Maybe something in their life hindered them from having that ability. Or maybe something was just bigger than you, finding themselves and knowing that they just weren't ready to handle you and all that you needed and required as a growing human being. Maybe it was because the relationship that the person your father had with your mother was just volatile, and they didn't want that for themselves and left you in that position, in that, not position, left you in that environment and self-preserved themselves, and you just got left behind. It's a harsh reality to face, and we try to make sense of it. Some of us will be like, I can never do that to this and that. I can never do that to my own child and everything. Maybe that's the case, but different strokes for different folks. And how we rationalize things usually has a lot to do with how we were raised and our sense of what's right and what's wrong, which in all of the episodes that I've done thus far, I talk about as always being very subjective, relative to the individual person. So I think I want to end this video just by saying this. The world needs people to be bigger persons. You ever heard that? Can you be the bigger person in this situation so that it can be resolved? Can you agree to disagree? Can we find some common ground here? Understand that that person's just not really understanding, but you do. You're understanding it, so just embrace it and let it go. Because when you fester on minute things such as experiences, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, you live in that one moment that is literally a snapshot in all the moments that you'll live in your life. And sometimes it's a snapshot that says a lot of words, right? Man, this happened. Like I was raped, or I was robbed, or I was left behind as a kid, or I was maimed in a fire, or I lost a cousin right in front of me because he was shot at a school shooting, or all these different things that can happen. And you take those experiences because literally it is a snapshot in the macrocosm of many snapshots in your life. Don't let one adversity destroy the potentiality of the human experience that you can have. And the more books that I'm reading, I just start to understand that we know that life isn't guaranteed, right? That's why this whole YOLO, you only live once mentality came. But how did it come as a consensus, or how was it formulated as a consensus for everyone to be selfish? That is kind of the general understanding, or the general consensus of everyone's mind frame these days, right? That we can be selfish. How can I use you before you use me type of mentality. And I really think, I'm like, you only live once. Why not be a good person while you are here? Why not help the next person? If it is the case that we don't die at 22 and we die at 90, so you have X amount of years in between to just live selfishly, How is that a good life? How? I can't fathom it. I don't understand it, and I don't know how other people can fathom that and be so entitled to something so beautiful that is given to us, yet we squander it on ego. And I don't know if I explained ego before, but the way that philosophy describes it is ego is identified by I. And I is a very fleeting notion. I like this. I like that. I love you. I love you. I do this. I am this. I am this is amounts of years old. And all of these things, it's very fleeting because I changes moment by moment. What I like today, I might not like tomorrow. Who I love today, I might not love tomorrow. How old I am today is not how old I'll be tomorrow. Therefore, how can we identify with something that is ever growing? We can't. We're always growing. We're always changing. And so ego is rooted in that I am this, and I'm this. And therefore, you're locking yourself down in a reality that is supposed to be evolving. But we'll explore more of that in this channel. And what I want to say about that even more so, just a little bit, is that even though we're evolving, the reason why I wanted to have a foundation type of channel is where you're rooted and you have the fundamentals taken care of, right? And then the next layer should be developing your 10 commandments for yourself. Things you would not do, because if you did it, you would be in the abyss. It's like, it's like when you're on a diet, right? And you're like, oh, I'm just going to have one donut. But then you're like, oh, I already had one donut, so I can have another donut. And then you're like, I already had 2 donuts, so you know what? I'll just start my diet next week. And then next week turns into next week, and then next week turns into next week, and you're 400 pounds later. Why don't we think that as how we act when we do bad things, or how we treat other people? How do we not think of that as an accrual as well? It's like, man, dude, I know I love this chick, but this chick right here, dog, she's bad, man. And she takes care of my needs. I'm just gonna cheat this once. Just this once, man, just this once. And do it. And she won't know, she won't find out. And then 7, 8 women, 100 women later, your significant other who you say you loved finds out, and she's devastated, and you feel that hurt, that anguish. But you made the choices already, but you didn't think about it because you didn't get caught. But your 400 pounds was her reaction. And that's vice versa. Ladies, I know you too. I know what you be doing. You think you're slick. But I know bad women too. And I've heard stories. I'm not saying bad, excuse me. I don't like to use those words because what's good to me is not good to you, and what's bad for you may not be bad for me. I will always say that probably in every episode. Reality is relative. It's based on subjective experience. And keep conscious. Understand that one bad can catapult into many bads, and then that is the pace of your life. If you have consciousness to reflect and say, this behavior didn't give me didn't give me the outcome that I wanted, so maybe I should change that. Therefore, understanding that this whole episode today was about, first off, being the bigger person, embracing the reality you want by making the choice to say, I'm going to put myself aside, my feelings, my experiences, put those aside so that I can nurture the relationship that I want and heal myself in the process. Forgive. To humble yourself in the rooted ego-ness that you are living in. You're not that person. You won't be that person 10 years down the line. You will have remnants of it, but you will have evolved from that, because you will have had more experiences to really understand the fundamentals of why a person or the experience happened in the way that it did, if that makes sense. It's like when you watch a movie, right, as a kid, and you're laughing, it's comedy and everything like that, and some funny things that a kid will understand, like, you know, him stubbing his toe or something like that. But really understanding the plot of the movie and the character development, why this person was the way that they were. Oh, he's manipulative. Why? Because his mom was manipulative, and that's the way that he saw the world, and he wanted to be as calculative as this, and just understanding different things that kids, as innocent as they are, don't truly understand yet, because they probably didn't do it yet or haven't experienced it in real time to understand and assess it. Just like experiences. Sometimes we have to see them in retrospect to understand the lesson. And I think Buddhism teaches that, is that in every experience there is a lesson. So look for it, learn it, and then apply it accordingly. I think I'm going to end it there. But I hope you guys took something out of this. I know this is a girls channel because I'm a chick, and mostly chicks are going to be listening to me, I hope. Ladies, let's stick together, okay? We need to empower each other, okay? It's not just through the body that we have, it's the mind and the spirituality of the feminine. But we need balance too, men. So understand your power in the game too, okay? You guys are the forerunners. We understand the dynamic, you know. We understand there's a one and a two, but not really, because we balance you guys out too. Without us, how did you have a catalyst to want to do anything at all? Just saying. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that in another episode. As for this episode, I'd say it's over. So let's just call it night. I'm getting a little tired, a little hungry. I have work tomorrow, but it's Friday. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So praise the Friday. Praise the Friday. Praise Friday. My mom will be like, don't be praising Friday. You praise the Lord. I'll be like, yes, Mama, for sure, for sure. Thank you, Jesus. She'd be like, don't be making fun of Jesus. I'm like, I'm not making fun of Jesus. Jesus has a sense of humor too, but I don't know why I'm digressing so much. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching me and listening to my jibber jabber, because sometimes I know that's exactly what it is. I digress in every video, but I understand that it comes back to center. So me finding it, and I have to go back sometimes, I'm like, where did I get from here to there? But only my brain understands. Excuse me. I just had a little food. I did have a snack. I'm so hungry. Only my brain can understand my brain, and even my brain doesn't understand my brain sometimes. So, Jesus. Okay. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you will watch another episode of Celestial Evolution. I'm going to go get my mom is going to invest in for me, and I'm going to pay her back a GoPro so that you can watch some of the workouts that I do, because another part of this channel is physicality. And I love fitness, guys. I don't know if you didn't understand by these guns. Yes, they're legal, and yes, I have a license for them. Just don't worry. Get flex. Anyways, thank you.